Hi Network, welcome to Development Index 2025 video guideline. I'm Sha, and for the upcoming 15 to 20 minutes, I'll be with you explaining about the Development Index that are applicable for this year. So if you are new, you might be wondering what exactly is Development Index. Basically, Development Index is a tool created by ICB to identify the system and also the performance that your ECB in your entity have, whether that match the minimum, either that's good, following the BP or not. And we got the data from some resources such as ICB audit check, ICB survey, the attendance, and other things. That's a quarterly basis data which every quarter from Q1 until Q4 you will find the analytic, how's your entity growth, what things that you need to improve, what things that you need to start, and what things that you are good at. That's in the nutshell about the development index. So as you knew that we are launching the development index and this is the link, we're still using the old link, and if you are used to open the 2024 DI, once you're adding this link in your search bar, it will be automatically directed to the 2024 development index. All you need to do is like clearing your historical browser because to prevent they might direct it to you to the old one. So once you're opening it, you will find a various of tab which will be explained later on. But for now, we're gonna start with the intro tab. Once you open the intro tab, all you can find is the overview of the development index 2025 and then the criteria that been used for DI 2025, and then the summary about the tab, the specific tab, recap the data that we are using for the time range, and then the all unit things, resources that you can take a look at. So for the overview of the criteria, for this year, we have a structure or system and also result and performance. And every subcategory, they have their own criteria from AC, CS, and OD. And moving on to the summary, this is basically all you need to know about the ECB Development Index tab, like what you can find for each tab. So for this year, we have a matrix, which is you can find the details, like the scale, the weight of each criteria, the time frame, and also relevant metrics that we are using at this tab. And then moving on to the clusterization one-on-one. So this is something new from us. We are hearing you that you are wondering how we got the cluster for every quarter and how we are mapping the clusterization for the entity. This is what we provide to you. For all those details about the clusterization and how the clusterization work, the breakdown, the range, the explanation, you can find it in this tab. Entity clusters. This tab contains the cluster assigned for 1 year. So once you open this tab, you will find the cluster jump that your entity have, let's say, the state of your entity during the key 1 until key 4 in one tab. And then you can figure it out, okay, in key 1, my entity in the state of a cluster 1, but on the key 2, it's on the cluster 2, and the key 3, it will be on the cluster 1 again. So you get found the pattern there to make sure you are keeping on track. And quarter overview is basically the tab. It's gonna be 4 tab because like each quarter gonna have their own tab, consisting the applicable criteria and the time range that use, and also some chart, this and also distribution of the cluster based on the exchange volume. The last thing is like regional analytic. This is something that you might be you, you might be used often, because over there you can find the analytic of your entity and also the score that you got. That's the tab, the overall tab that you're gonna find during no at this development index 2025. Moving on a little bit, you can find the recap of the range of the data used. So if you're wondering the range of the data is being used for each quarter, you can find it here. But for now, just only found the information about the key one, because like for key 2, key 3, and key 4, it will be added once we gonna launch the upcoming quarter result for the next quarter. And all you need is something that the resources that you can take a look at when you are somehow confused. I think that's all for the intro tab, and we're gonna move to the metrics tab. So in the metrics, you will find the small explanation about what exactly the structure or system and performance or result. So in the last year, you might be familiar with the axis X and axis Y, or like structure and result. But for this year, we are using the SDI and PDI, which is the SDI consists of the structure or system development index. Meanwhile, PDI is like a performance or result development index. And you can also find the small explanation about what is exactly SDI and PDI here. You can simply take a look at it, and then you can check the applicable criteria for DI 2025. So if you are wondering, are these criteria gonna be used for a whole 2025? It's a yes. What makes it different is only the time frame that we are using, the range of the timeline that we are using to identifying your performance for each quarter. And also, this is something new. Last year we don't have the weight for each criteria, but for this year we have it. For example, the quality properly audited and the audited the quarter have a 50% for the weight. So later on, when you are seeing your score, your original score will be multiplied by the weight, and that's gonna be your score for DI. That's how we're gonna counting it. And then for the scale, we provide you the detail for the scale, whether it's a binary, percentage, or like there is a specific category for it. You can simply take a look. And also for the time frames, whether the criteria got it for quarterly, semesterly, or like mainly it's gonna be quarterly or semesterly or like monthly. And also the source that we got those information, which somehow if you want to double check, you can take a look at that source. And we also provide you the description for each criteria to make sure that you are understand why that criteria is important for you. And that's for the metrics. We're going to move on to the cluster one-on-one. So this is the things that new that I've told you in the beginning. We have a clusterization one-on-one, which is consists of the explanation for each cluster from cluster 5 to cluster 1, and then clustering from cluster 5 to cluster 1. And the explanation you can find what exactly the state of your entity when you are fall into the specific cluster. Let's say for the entity that fall into the cluster 1, it means like the score that you are got for both SDI and PDI is a very high. Meanwhile, for the entity that fall into the cluster 5, it means both SDI and PDI score that you got, that's very low compared to the standard that we set. But for the detail, you can simply take a look over here and then understand what kind of step that you can take for the upcoming quarter. And then on the clustering, you can find the range that we are using. So let's say you got the data, you got the information about this score that you got for both SDI and PDI, and then you can simply identify why you are at that cluster. If you're wondering why I'm in the cluster 2 or cluster 3, this is the range that we are using. So you can compare how's your SDI score and how's your PDI score. And also, since we are using the percentile, this is the short, simple explanation that we can provide to you. However, if you're wondering how it's gonna be distributed in detail, you can simply approach me. Moving on to the entity cluster, like I said before, it is something like a databases where you can find the clusterization historical, where you can find the key 1 until key 4 cluster in one tab. And then since now we just only have the data for the key 1, so we just only showing you for the key 1. But once we launch for the key 2, it will be added here for the key 2, so you can comparing your data. Moving on to the overview, this is something that you might be take a look a little bit longer compared to another tab, because you might be curious what data, the time of the data range that you're using. And then for the key 1, this is the range of data that we are using. Let's say for the quality for properly audited in the quarter, we are using the data for Q4 2024, and that's also same for the SAB audit result report minimum implementation and also CS implementation. On the quantity, the synergy touch point, MCR, and also communication with plenary, because like we got this information from the survey. And then the survey is happened on April, so that's why the range of data that's been put here is like April 2025. The performance, the summary. Moving on to the summary, Q1 is basically the quick shortened access where you can find the tab that you need. You can simply click it and then it will be help directed you to the specific tab that you are aiming for. Moving on to the below part. So for this year, we have a global cluster chart. If you notice, last year we have one tab for only for the chart, but for this time we just only gonna use the overview for every quarter. And then we also have the C1, C2, C3, C4, and C5 for the chart. Scroll a little bit down, you will find the distribution, how it's gonna look like when it's comparing to the exchange volume and its code. So that's how we're distributing it. This is how it looks like when it comes to distributing. And this tab, you can find it for every quarter, so no need to be worried of. Okay, let's moving on to the next tab, which is the analytics. So each region, American, Asia, Europe, and also EMEA have their own analytic tab to make it more easy to access. And then I'm gonna take an example for America. And once you're opening it, the first thing that you need to do is find your entity. Once you got your entity, you're good, because you can find the quarter and also the cluster that you are add on. And also, you got the recap of the which cluster that you are on, how's your SDI score and how's your PDI score, and also the maximum score that you got and also the minimum score that you got. And this recapping will be have for the key 1 until key 4. Then we'll scroll a little bit down, you can find the criteria that you can pay attention for the upcoming quarter. Have continue, improve, and start. Which continue, it is something that you can continuing doing it, like you are already good at it. Improve, it means like you can make some improvement to make it good. And if you have something understart, it means like you need to start thinking how you can implement that criteria, how that criteria can be really applicable in your system, like performance. That's how you use it. And then if you're wondering, where can I find the transparency for my data? Then you can scroll a little bit down. There you can find your STI analysis and also your PDI analysis. And please keep in mind the data of your entity is going to be with the yellow background if it's not matched with the ideal one. And also, the score that's showing here has been multiplied with the weight of the criteria that has been distributed. Where you can find the weight, you can simply go to the matrix and then fill. You can find it here. So, how I can read this? This is the score of your SDI, which is came from those three area, AC, CS, and also OD. And then, as you can see here, you can find the specific criteria under specific area. Like for example, criteria related to audit and compliance consists of properly audited the quarter, EER, and also the audited the quarter of the entity. This is the criteria, this is the area, and this is the category. Hopefully that's clear for you. Then, this is your score. The score here is from either the ICB survey, ICB audit check, ACB audit report, and another resources. This is the score. And then, this is the score that have been multiplied with the weight. So if you're wondering, okay, you said this is my score, but why I get 0.36? Because the score showing here has been multiplied with the weight that we've been distributed in the matrix tab. So your score multiply with the weight that been distributed, and this is where we put it. And this is where the score came from. Then how can I know is it match the ideal one or not? For not make you confused, this is what we've provided. The ideal part. These are the part where you can matching out with your score that has not been multiplied. Because like the score that been multiplied, basically we need it to mapping out the clusterization. Hopes that clear to it for you. And yes, like I said before, if it's under yellow background, it means it's not the ideal one. Take a look at this. It's 75, meanwhile the ideal one is 100. And the ideal one is audited and the score is audited. The status is audited. It means it's met the ideal one, so it's not going to be yellow. And you can also find the same for the PDI analysis. If you found out there is an incorrect data for the score over here, you can simply approach the respective TL, but if it's for OD, you can simply comes to me or like to your OD coaches. Done. Scroll a little bit down again, you can find the reality of development index of 2025. So you might need someone to talk with. Then this is the entity that you can approach, which they have a different the cluster, the similar reality as your entity. So for example, Brazil wondering which entity that I can approach, these are the list. You can simply go to them, approach the chair or MCR, and then talk to them for sharing GCP and BCP, or like as simply as you can get in touch for networking. That's how you can support each other. And then I think that's all for the analytic, and that's also applicable for AP Europe and MEA. Hopes that cleared the air, and like I said before, if you have any question, feel free to approach us because we will be glad to help you. I think that's all. Thank you so much and have a good day.